Welcome to the UK Fantasy Football Show, Goal's weekly podcast that discusses many of football fans' favourite pastime. We'll be reacting to the VAR-led carnage of Game Week 10, unravelling the captain debate that stemmed from Granit Xhaka's massive meltdown, and revealing our teams for Game Week 11. This week, Sam, Dave and I are joined by Goal's chief correspondent, Peter Staunton. Pete, you were telling me yesterday that you actually haven't changed your team, have you, since Game Week 1?
2 minutes ago, I've made my first, it wasn't even a transfer, but my first change within my team all season long. I've just realised that I've had Enda Stevens on the bench for about 8 weeks, and he's one of the top scoring defenders, so I've just put him in for Shane Duffy, who I thought was going to have a great season. He was my captain at one stage.
And how are you doing, points-wise?
Do you know, not too bad. I've got 510 points overall. That's despite not having looked at my fantasy team since week 1. But it's not because I was indifferent towards it. I was really...
You're so confident.
No, I was really hurt at the beginning of the season because like Ashley Barnes is my favourite player in the world, okay? So he was non-negotiable for my fantasy team at the start of the season. So my front three, he was my third forward. So my front three was going to be Aguero, Aubameyang, and one more cheaper forward. And I thought, who's the best man for the job? It's going to be Ashley Barnes, clearly. Then, just before the transfer deadline, I think it was on the Friday before the first match week, I bottled it. I took Barnes out and I put in Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
He smashed it that first week as well, didn't he?
Barnes ends up scoring like 4 goals in his first 3 games or something like that. And I just took it as a personal affront and I said, right, that's it. I'm not checking my fantasy team all season long. But you know what? Calvert-Lewin has come into a little bit of form over the past couple of weeks. And, you know, his form towards the end of last season, his improvements that he made under Marco Silva, I thought he was due a big one this year. It's taken him a little bit longer to get up to speed on his goal scoring, but I think he's got 3 in the league now. And a good player in a really poor team.
Who's your top scorer in that team?
My top scorer, I will imagine it's going to be Sergio Aguero.
Ah, okay. See, 510 points without making any changes. That really hurts me deep inside.
How many points have you got, Dave?
It hurts me because it's 500. Show me. I've got 509. It just so happened to have one more point than me.
Overall points, 510.
And how many subs have you made?
Tons.
I mean, all of us have used our wild card here. All of us have done this week in, week out.
You know, I think the key is not to overthink it, you know?
Because that is definitely the key.
Over the course of the season, you know, good players will have a little trough of form. De Bruyne might get injured, but I think everybody averages out where they deserve to be over the course of a season. So if you pick 5 or 6 big hitters at the start of the year, they're going to carry your team. I
think you've got to be a bit fortunate though. Like if you had a big injury to one of your big players, then you would be screwed if you weren't making any subs.
He would come out. But also, we can't overlook, and I think we'll get onto this, you can't overlook the effect that 2 Leicester players had on my match week last week, and I think that gave me 76 points overall.
Who are your 2 Leicester players?
I had Ben Chilwell, and I had Ayoze Perez.
Chilwell got like 18 points or something.
Yeah, I think they had I think I got more than half my points for the entire match week.
I used to have Chilwell.
I'm just looking at your team. Have you had Shane Duffy as your captain all season as well?
Yeah,
of course
he has. Trolling us.
Of course he has. You don't want me to say, yeah.
But also, you know, I was looking at Enda Stevens. I should have 40 more points than I have because I've had Enda Stevens as my third sub. He's played every game. He's had like 4 or 5 clean sheets for Sheffield United. You know, he's swung the odd ball across for an assist and that kind of thing. And he's been sat on my bench doing nothing. But now he's in the team and captain. I always have to have an Irish player captain.
Well, we're going to say, but...
But I'll go back to my big hitters, right? So I've got Ederson in my team, okay? I've got Aguero, I've got Aubameyang, I've got Van Dijk. You know, they're going to be good for points every week, no matter what the support cast is like. It's a solid team, yeah. It's a solid team.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was a good week for people with big Leicester players, with the likes of Vardy getting, I think he got 20 points.
Yeah.
So if you triple captain him, 60 points, which someone didn't they? Or I imagine a few people would have done over the weekend.
Yeah.
9-0 against Southampton.
Incredible.
Ridiculous. Did you watch the match, you guys?
I watched the second half.
It was unbelievable to watch them fall apart. I appreciate, they were down a man for the duration of the match, almost the entire duration of the match, but still, you think you'd shore up that defence a little bit more, but they just completely lost interest in
it. They're crap.
Ayoze Perez, I can't believe he actually started scoring as well.
Well, that's how bad they were.
I think, I think
he did, yeah.
I think I bought him at the start of the season when he was still playing for Newcastle, and then he got transferred over to Leicester, and I just kept him. Again, I was quite happy with having Leicester players in this team because I had a look at the start of the season. I thought if anyone is going to break the top 4 or top 6, I think Leicester can do it, and they're kind of proven that over the last little while. It's taken him again a little bit of time to get up and running.
It's interesting with Leicester that I was looking at the team after that 9-0 win, and for me, their team on paper, I wouldn't say it's outright stronger than their team when they won the league, but there's definitely a lot of strength there. Mahrez and Kante aside, who are obviously brilliant for the rest of that season, you probably don't have the same strength in midfield, but the defence is better. Their attack, they've got a lot of good attackers in there. They've got young players who are sort of waiting in the wings. I mean, is it Harvey Barnes who's come in recently? He's been really good for them.
Yeah.
It's an impressive team, and obviously in Rodgers, they've got a really good manager.
They've got great balance, I think, in the team.
So much energy as well.
Yeah.
It's like you felt that against Southampton. They just weren't going to back off. I mean, sometimes when teams are leading, what were they, 5-0 at half time, was it?
Yeah, 5-0 half time.
Like, they come out in the second half and it's a 0-0.
Well,
the other team just shore it up a bit.
Do you know what appealed to me most about the win was that they celebrated every goal.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed
Do you remember during
that.
the Women's World Cup, they were giving the American team a lot of grief for celebrating every goal
against
that they scored.
Honduras, yeah.
Against Thailand, I think, in the first round.
Thailand, yeah.
And nobody says it about the male players, and they're all like, oh, can they get the record? Can they get the record? Why are women expected to ease off and show some humility where the men are expected to go for the jugular? I just think it's a little bit ridiculous. But I think it was Johnny Evans on the 6th goal that's he whispered to all the teammates. He said, the record is 9, we're going to try and get the record. And they all got the bit between their teeth then and went for it. And you have to admire that,
Yeah, it was awesome.
Go for it, yeah.
So yeah, Chilwell and Perez, two mainstays of the Calacuta Republic.
I think I peaked really in that game, Leicester Southampton. I got all my points basically in that game. I got 38 points in the game week, which is terrible.
Gorged yourself.
Yeah, and De Bruyne was the only one who got me pretty much anything. Aguero's captain, once again, letting me down. Pep Guardiola, he might be a brilliant manager, but he is the most frustrating FPL managers. He is so frustrating with his rotation.
But you talk about Aguero's still got 70 odd points in fantasy. So, he's going to get his goals. Even if he comes off the bench, he will score his goals.
But he didn't this weekend, did he? And that's the most frustrating thing, I think, when he's on the bench and then he comes on for a few token minutes, doesn't do anything. You've captained him, so you get 1 point, so you get 2 points in total. It's soul destroying. That ruins
it's
your
painful
week.
because you know how much you've spent on him as well.
Yeah, 12 million is a lot.
Yeah,
for one player. So I've made my change. I've dropped him. We'll go into that a little bit later.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not great. How did you guys do this week, Dave and Sam?
I got 55 points, and it's because I captained Sterling, so Sterling scored. I got some bonus points, didn't he? So he got 22 points in total. All right, nice. And then the rest were there were quite a few solid little 5s in there. Abraham 5, why doesn't he score? Mount 5, Mane 5, Rico 5. So
Rico's done all right for you, hasn't he? Plugging away with his 5
he
points
has actually,
every week.
yeah. He's been one of the.
I swear every time I look, he gets you 5 points every week.
Yeah, he is. He is. I'd recommend him to anyone really, especially if you're looking for a relatively cheap defender. Plays every week for Bournemouth at the moment, so yeah. Callum Wilson hasn't come up with the goods.
Did Andre Ayew start for you?
No.
Sorry.
No, he was my second sub. So Cantwell came on for Matip.
Pound shot Griezmann.
Griezmann's a pound shot, are you? So yeah, he got another 8 points. Sat on my bench. I should really again build the team around him and John Lundstram.
He's a hero.
Who, Lundstram?
Yeah. He's had him in his team for the duration of the entire game, and he hasn't started him until this week. Did he get many points for you this week?
2.
No. But that's why I watched Sheffield United a good bit last season. I'm interested in the Championship, and I thought if they come up, they're going to do well. So I have Stevens and Fleck. They weren't just to flesh out the squad. I actually thought they're going to do a bit of business for me this year in fantasy, and the case is proven for Stevens. He's got pressure on him now as captain, only because I don't know how to change captain. How do you do it?
This is it's like adding insult to injury, this conversation.
You must have done it because you changed Duffy to...
I've just substituted Duffy out of the team, but I don't know how to make somebody my captain.
Okay.
I don't know how.
I'm not telling you.
Right, there we go. A hat-trick of assists for Enda Stevens coming up this weekend.
No, it will happen.
They've got Burnley at home, so they've got a really good chance of another clean sheet.
In fact, another decent scorer on my team was McTominay. So they all mocked me for putting him in. He was really cheap to add, and I think he scored at least 2 goals since I put him in the team.
He got that ridiculously fluky goal against Arsenal a few weeks back.
Oh, shut up, man.
Pete, have you been tempted?
A slight deflection, wasn't it?
He just thundered it in the roof of the net.
No,
right strike.
They took a nick off Socrates.
Yeah, but
that was Sotopoulos.
Have you been tempted by Aaron Connolly at all?
Yes.
Why'd you say that, Miles?
We'll get on
talking about Irish internationals.
We'll get on to that, because when you're going to ask me about who you're going to pick for the week.
We'll
come on to Aaron
hold
Connolly.
that
hold
content
that
gold.
Yeah.
Let's have a quick look at the latest standings then, which it always depresses me to read these out now because I'm just falling way behind. Sam's on 531 points. Dave is on 509 points, 1 point behind where Pete would be if he was in this league. And I am on 485 points.
Oh, he's still in the 400s.
Are you only on 485 and
Right.
you change it every week?
Yeah, I know.
What?
That's why we should have just done one show at the start, talked about our picks, and then talked about anything else but FPL for the rest of them.
That is criminal, Miles. I mean, somebody in a coma could have picked this team, and they'd be doing better than you.
Thanks, Peyton. Thanks. In the public UK Fantasy Football Show League, the top point scorer is doing better than all of us, including Pete, including Sam. He is on, Musa Lawan, he's on 634 points.
That's the UK's top scorer?
That's the top scorer in our
that's
public league, which has about 2,500 players in.
Well done.
So, yeah, he's doing very well. He was top last week as well. So he's held on to that throne. He got 61 points last week, which is pretty decent.
I bet he's played in another league as well where they're putting money on it. You know, there's a lot of people out there who play fantasy football for money.
A lot of people take it very seriously.
Don't they? Yeah.
I mean, I take it seriously. I don't put money on it because I'm clearly terrible. So it'd be a waste of money, but God, it's so bleak looking at where I stand in that table.
I expected to be bottom, and then I logged in. I was like, wow, I'm doing okay. So I might actually pick it up now for the next few weeks until I get sick of it again.
Yeah, don't though, because you'll see that making changes is just the worst thing you can do.
Well, I've had to take Shane Duffy out because Potter doesn't like him, and I thought Shane Duffy was going to have a good season, right? Because he scores goals from corner kicks. Brighton were a clean sheet machine under Chris Hughton. Well, not machine, but they'd keep one every now and again, you know. But he's lost his place. They brought that Webster in, and they play three at the back. Dunk is the only one really that survived out of that partnership. Duffy's he's been dropped. So, yeah, disappointing. But I've had to take him out of the team. I have to strip him of the captaincy.
Big decision.
Yeah.
Listeners, you can join our league and test yourself against us all season long. The code to type in on the FPL website is NHC4WZ. Let's move on then. Each week, in between our game week review and preview, we're tackling a topic that will be discussed among FPL managers far and wide. Now, last week, we delved into Arsenal being stuck in perpetual Arsenalness, but it would be remiss to ignore the soap opera that kind of unfolded on Sunday at the Emirates. I thought we'd focus on Xhaka this week, because I think it was quite an interesting talking point, and it's probably been the one that's dominated the midweek headlines on sports and football websites in the UK. What do we make of the whole saga? Pete, what do you think of it all?
I think it's been overblown, you know. We've all had a bad day at work, you know.
I was thinking that on the way in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I was watching the match of the day highlights on my phone, and I was looking at it, I was thinking it was the signs of someone who's clearly under a lot of pressure, who clearly the reaction from fans got under his skin quite a lot. The initial reaction of the cheers and the jeers.
I think he's perfectly entitled to do what he's doing. I mean, the sense of entitlement from Arsenal fans is disgusting, really, considering where they are as a club. You know, they did it before. I mean, they didn't learn their lesson. All of us, you know, they did it to Abue once upon a time, and then they spent sort of the next 2 or 3 years apologising to Abue by making him into this sort of cult figure around the club. You know, I think it's shameful, really, to treat your players like that, especially your captain. You know, these guys are, you know, they're putting it on the line every week for them, whether they're good or bad. And I don't think the reaction from Xhaka is the major problem. The problem is that I think he's useless and he's never really produced for them. I
think that's the key point as well. He was the wrong decision to be the captain.
Well, look, football clubs, football teams, they gravitate behind a leader. It doesn't matter who's wearing the armband. And the very fact that Arsenal had this leadership group vote, it really illustrates the point that whether he's wearing the armband or not, the players look up to him as a leader. He's the one who clearly sets the standards. He's the one who the players respect, because they wouldn't have voted him in as leader otherwise.
I think so, but if you're the club captain, you have more of a responsibility, don't you, to sort of uphold a higher level of standards in terms of your conduct. And he's a hothead. At the end of the day, like, this isn't exactly something that was out of the blue and unexpected. He's always a little bit like he's one reckless tackle away from a booking or a red card.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. He's always I think he's a soft booking, usually, is Xhaka. I just don't particularly rate him as a player, but I don't think he deserves that kind of abuse.
He's not really showing if he's just, it's 2-2 and he's just walking off, isn't that just like riling the fans anyway? Isn't he a bit like, that doesn't scream a team player to me, you know, like.
I think it was the initial reaction, wasn't it? Like, the number was held up and it was clear that Xhaka was coming off, and then immediately the fans started cheering it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And then he was like, "Well, I'm not running then. Screw you guys."
Yeah, I agree. That seems to be what happened. The goal, the Ayew goal. I mean, he should be doing an awful lot better for that. But he's a slow player. You know, he's going to get outpaced. But I just think it's, you know, you go back to under 8s. You know, the lesson that you learn there is stop the cross. And you could see David Luiz immediately looking over to Xhaka saying, what the hell was that about? Stop the cross.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
It's the risk of putting a weak player as captain. I mean, I understand what you mean. He is clearly respected in the dressing room.
Yeah.
He's a very passionate player, so you can totally get that. But if he's not... I mean, Man City, they did a similar thing during the summer. They had a poll within the club and they decided, we'll give it to David Silva because he was the most popular. But the difference is that David Silva, while he hasn't been in the most outstanding form in recent sort of season or two, he is clearly a very, very talented player. And if anything, the effect of giving him the captaincy has helped revitalise him a little bit. And so it's an interesting comparison, those two teams, because they've both done the same thing, but had very different results.
I think if you speak to any manager, I don't think it really matters who's wearing the armband. Sometimes it's a cosmetic thing. Because the leader is the leader. I mean, look at Liverpool, for example. Jordan Henderson is the one who wears the armband, but who's the leader? It's Virgil van Dijk. Everybody knows that. He doesn't need the armband to be the leader. He's the one who sets the standards on the field, and it probably does a little bit for him.
I don't know about that.
It does.
I think
you have to watch Liverpool in the stadium to know that.
It doesn't mean that Henderson isn't the leader, though.
No, but
he can have leader, yeah.
Van Dijk is the natural leader of that team.
He is a natural leader.
And it doesn't matter if he's wearing the armband or not.
I think he's absolutely a natural leader.
Think of all the years that Casillas wore the armband at Real Madrid and Sergio Ramos was the one doing all the leading on the field. It doesn't really matter who's wearing the armband.
Yeah, goalkeepers should be captains.
But that's the thing about a lot of great teams, the really top teams at the top level. They usually have more than one player who you could say they should be the captain. Like often with top teams, it's hard to actually identify who the captain is because there are so many leaders in that.
It doesn't really matter. Now, it can go the other way because sometimes you can actually pander is probably the wrong word, but you can enrich a player's experience by giving him the armband. You know, I know that, for example, once Eden Hazard got the captain's armband for Belgium, it took his game to another level. You know, because he relishes being the captain of his national team. He clearly gets a boost out of being given that level of responsibility. So that's good for him.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that when Vincent Kompany's on the field, even though Eden Hazard is wearing the armband, Kompany's leading the team. You know.
I don't think there's any leaders in the Arsenal team. I just look through the Arsenal squad and I'm thinking, who else would you put as captain?
I think that's probably why Emery was like, screw this.
I would
decide.
Just pick a midfielder, someone in the middle of the park. I can scream at him, he can pass the message on.
In that team, who would you pick as captain? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
In that team, my captain would be either Luis or Socrates.
Yeah, and I think Luis is probably discounted a little bit because he's quite new. And
it's hard to
look at people who've been in the team for a few years.
He came in 3 days before the start of the season, didn't he, Luis? So hard to do that.
But he'll probably be the future
armband
wearer.
But on the field, I think Socrates is their leader. You can see that. You know, he's the one dragging people around, putting people into shape. He's the one who'll talk to referees, which is a key part of the job as well.
He handled the goal disqualification very well at the weekend as well, when you consider this sort of situation. And that's the sort of thing you want to see from your captain. You know, we didn't really see that from Xhaka. So it'd be interesting what they do. Do you think Arsenal will strip him of the captaincy? Do you think they should?
That'd be a bad decision.
The way that the manager was speaking yesterday, it sounded like that maybe Xhaka would hand it back. As in, I don't want to be captain of this club anymore. Why would I, when this is the abuse that I'm facing? I think that's what Emery was hinting towards yesterday, when he said, we have to make a decision. You know, first we have to rehabilitate him as a human being. I mean, you know, I wouldn't downplay the effects mentally that it's had on Xhaka, because clearly it's stressed him out over the last few days. So I don't know if a permanent decision will be made on that just now. I think he'll be taken out of the firing line, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him hand it back and say, okay, somebody else have a go of it.
What do you reckon, Dave? You were shaking your head. You reckon you should?
I just think it looks like you're pandering to the situation, doesn't it? If you just suddenly go, we'll remove the captaincy from him. You know, you've already made that decision, so stick by it.
It makes it worse though. If the club then say, "Okay, we agree with the fans."
Exactly.
It gives them a lot of power there, doesn't it?
Yeah, the fans are like, they'll be booing everybody.
Exactly, because they think they'll get their way. And the thing is, I mean, Arsenal fans have got to accept, in terms of a transition from Wenger, it's not gone that badly, really. You know, clubs have really sunk without a trace when they've lost managers like that before. You know,
they got to Europa League final.
You know, they obviously didn't have a lot of budget to work with for the last two summer transfer windows. You know. I think they're treading water, but that's no bad thing for Arsenal at the minute. And whatever you think about Emery, whatever you think about Stan Kroenke, whatever, they're not doing too badly, all things considered. I think sometimes the fans...
Be a bit more grateful, guys.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And especially, I mean, it does nobody any favours, inflicting that kind of damage onto your own captain, you know.
Yeah.
If only Chelsea fans had started booing John Terry when he said that to Anton Ferdinand, and, you know, maybe he might have got a bit of humility about the thing. Instead he gets a a standing ovation and substituted in 26 minutes in his last game. You know, it shows where people's standards lie.
I found it very interesting though. On the day after the match on Monday, you know, a lot of media organisations were outside Emirates speaking to fans, and it was universally condemned. You know, the way he'd acted, because fans were very defensive about their own sort of points of view.
But he's the face of the club. You know, he's supposed to be. You know, well, he's the guy that would lead the team out at the start of the match. He's also a very well-paid professional. You should be big enough in my mind to, if someone's booing you, to go, so what? And and to react like that, it's just an absolute red rag. If he hadn't reacted like that,
the red rag is booing him. These people are human beings at the end of the day. You know, you have to expect some sort of reaction. You know, you're not going to. I wouldn't sit down and take that. Somebody calling me shit like that, I wouldn't.
Yeah, but you're not professional football. People tell you at work you're shit all the time.
You should look at my mentions on Twitter. Yeah.
So I don't see you turning around and telling people to fuck off on Twitter.
No, you don't. That's true.
So I don't think
I'd get cancelled for that.
You would. So I think Xhaka. I appreciate the pressure will have been immense on him, and immensely he'd have been immensely frustrated, but he shouldn't have reacted like that.
It's an emotional reaction.
But he should never have been that captain, because this was always going to be a potential outcome. He's one of the worst players in that sort of starting 11 that you would pick week in, week out. He's clearly a hothead. Should never have been captain.
Do you know who should have been captain?
Guendouzi.
Jack Wilshere. Should have kept Jack Wilshere.
I'd give it.
I guess it would just be a token captain because he never really.
never played.
Yeah.
I'd give it to Socrates, David Luiz, and my other candidate would be Guendouzi. I think he's got a great attitude. His head never drops no matter what's going on around him.
I enjoyed his little rugby tackle at the weekend.
And his little rugby tackle. Was it on Zaha?
Superb.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure
I think he epitomises the qualities you need in a leader, Guendouzi, and he's just got into the French squad as well. You know, I think he'd be playing for France at the Euros next year because Pogba and Kante can't stay fit. That's a big worry for France going into the Euros, by the way. But I think Guendouzi he'll establish himself in that French midfield, and this time next year I think he'll be looking at one of the top centre midfield players in the world.
I think that's a massive overreaction.
You heard it here first.
I think he will be a good Premier League player for the next 3 years.
You were calling Pepe fraud last week though, and then he smashed it in the...
He scored 2 for controlled conditions. You know, back in my amateur football days, I was not a very good goal scorer.
Here we go.
By the way, Kasper Schmeichel played with him.
You played with Kasper Schmeichel?
No, he played with me.
He mentioned it every week.
He played with me. Scoring 2 free kicks, big fat wows, controlled conditions.
What, at school?
The ball's not moving.
Were you playing at school with Kasper Schmeichel?
Yeah, Steve Bruce Soccer Schools.
Oh, right.
So
were you getting around to telling us you're a set piece specialist?
No, I wasn't. But
okay,
I think he was going to tell Nicolas Pepe how to take a free kick.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was going to compare himself to Pepe.
I think the idea of people going, "Oh, look, Pepe's come good now. He scored 2 free kicks. Get out of town."
No. I disagree with you. Again, it's all about patience. You have to be patient with these people. Okay, he's come in from a league which is it's a different league, the French league to the English league. Okay, and it's taken 6 months before he scored a goal for the club. You know. How long did it take Dennis Bergkamp to get going?
I don't know.
I don't think
3 minutes.
Yeah, it took him months. People were complaining they've bought a dud.
It was about 2 months because he scored a wicked goal against Southampton, wasn't
That's right. Yeah. People need time to bet in.
I don't agree. Like football's, it's not a patient game though, is it?
Nah, it's a results business.
Results business, exactly.
No,
yeah.
I think if they handle Pepe correctly, I think they'll have a player on their hands. I think he's a potential Ballon d'Or.
They're going to have to now, aren't they? Because
Peter.
I'm Team Pete here.
Sorry, can you just say that again? I won't talk over you.
Okay, Nicolas Pepe is a potential Ballon d'Or winner. I think he'll finish in the Ballon d'Or top 10 before the end of his career. For sure.
That is legitimate boulder dash.
If you look, I've got little else for doing on Sunday evenings than watching French football, okay? On BT Sport. And I did watch Lille a few times last year. The boy is absolute quality. Absolute quality. He's got everything. Everything.
I mean,
Steve Mounier scored about 20 goals.
I was going to say Memphis Depay looks like an absolute world class.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it when Arsenal got him. I couldn't believe that Arsenal had managed to convince Nicolas Pepe to join them. I think he's brilliant, and I just think he needs a little bit of patience. And once he gets up to speed, he will absolutely batter that league.
Nah, we'll see how this pans out.
He's not my fantasy team though.
Not yet. Trust him that much. So I think we agree that Xhaka is probably not the best captain, irrespective of the decisions that were made on Sunday with the fans and with him. Who do we think are actually really good captains in the Premier League? Are there any examples that you
I
look
think
at?
Henderson's, I think, is a wicked captain. He
I think his captaincy, it's a bit like I think Klopp he's kind of like letting him hand out the milk at school. I think that's that captain.
I think he's got a good personality. I think his personality, without having met the chap, will benefits from being the captain.
They've got loads of leaders in that team, though. Like Milner and Van Dijk as well. And
I think Milner's vice captain as well, isn't he? I rarely sing Henderson's praises, to be honest, because he's a former Sunderland player and not the biggest fan of him in the world. And he's obviously not the most talented player in the Premier League or anything, or even obviously in Liverpool's squad. But it's hard to deny the impact he can have in big games. Like Klopp trusts him for big matches. He delivers in big matches at the end of the day. And look at the weekend when Liverpool needed some goals and they were struggling to score. He turned up and he scored as the equaliser. It was the equaliser, wasn't it? So, you can't deny that sort of impact he has. I think he's been brilliant for them since he came into that team. And obviously, Liverpool have been turned from a side battling for a top 4 place to regularly in the top 2 now.
Yeah.
I really like Mark Noble as a captain. He's just, he's Mr. West Ham, but again, heart on the sleeve, and that's, you can just see if he has a good game, that will raise everyone. Whether it's maybe even if he just they're back against the wall, he runs through, smashes someone, or just does something, he can get the fans behind the team quicker and more intense than anyone else. I like Lascelles as well as a captain.
I was going to mention him. I think he's a brilliant captain. He's probably been our best player, Newcastle's best player, since we got promoted into the Premier League. Consistently.
He should have gone to the World Cup with England.
Yeah.
Because I was watching Newcastle a bit towards the end of last season. He's immense as a leader on the field. Brilliant player.
Yeah. And considering the lack of real world-class quality in England's centre-back options, I mean, there are some players in that England squad consistently getting in who you got a question. Like, I do not rate John Stones, really. Like, he's only there.
He's coasting at the minute.
If he went outside a top 6 team, there's no way Southgate would pick him or month in, month out. Lascelles deserves a shot, but it's always been the problem with Newcastle players. They never get in the England team. It's just
Southern bias, is it?
It is. It really is. It's a London top 6 bias. I'm going to sing that song.
Well, there's a good call for a top 6 bias, though,
all
isn't
these
there?
teams having their best players. Yeah. And
I mean, another one that's worth mentioning is Ashley Young at Manchester United. I mean, if ever there's a similar situation as the Arsenal team there, it's where are your leaders?
You can imagine Youngie getting booed at Old Trafford.
Yeah.
But I think it's totally
a bit depressing
unfair
that he's still in the first 11.
But to be fair, I mean, with players like Ashley Young, he's the only one really left now from sort of De Gea is still there as well, I suppose. But he's the only one who kind of epitomises those kind of Ferguson United qualities. I think he's a good choice for a captain, and I think he gets an awful lot of undue stick to us Ashley Young. I remember
he just doesn't look like a leader to me.
A few weeks back when Palace played them and he got turned inside out by Zaha and people made fun of him on social media for it, and he still blocked the cross at the end. He got sat down on his arse twice and then got up and blocked the cross, and people are going, look at the Young getting turned inside out. I think he's got that sort of tenacious quality.
It's a tough gig for Ashley Young because he was a winger and now he's 34 and a fullback.
Yeah.
Been shoved into being a fullback. He does the best he can.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think anyone should besmirch him for that. I think apparently, De Gea after Ashley Young
for captain.
Yeah, he's not going to inspire anyone.
No, I don't think goalkeepers should be it, because if we're looking at this captaincy role, it should be someone on the pitch who can essentially just, if things start go a bit array, or you need to kind of decide who's taking a free kick, or
you need to talk to the manager. You're not going to get a goalkeeper sprinting over.
Yeah, but that's why you have
how can they
influence
the game?
Yeah, I guess
how can they influence the game at all? Hugo Lloris at Tottenham, it's just like.
I was watching United versus Norwich at the weekend, and McTominay is a leader in waiting.
Yeah,
the way he was coming out of the Pete, stop nodding.
This is have you got shares in Scott McTominay? Does he mention him every week on this?
Pretty much.
His team's named after him, after all.
The way he was coming out the changing rooms, and you could see he was the one who was most up for it. He was shouting at everyone, and he leads by example.
There you go. It doesn't need the armband. Leaders are leaders.
No,
essentially, it needs to be someone who doesn't. I get the feeling this is the same with Henderson. None of the rest of the team are really going to argue back with him.
No.
If he says something to them, they're going to be like, right, okay, yeah, they'll take it because he's got experience. Yeah, he's been at Liverpool for ages.
I'll tell you what's interesting. I'm looking through the captains list, and all right, Wes Morgan is listed as Jamaican, but obviously he's English born. There's like 14 or 15 of the captains are either British, and Seamus Coleman's case Irish in the Premier League. There aren't that many foreign captains, as it were. You've got Xhaka, Azpilicueta, Milivojevic, David Silva, Højbjerg, and Loris. Everybody else is British or Irish. That's interesting.
I guess it's one of those traditional things, isn't it? You tend to gravitate towards, in any country, in any part of the world, certainly the top leagues still, I think that still would be the case. Isn't always the case. You can look at examples in Spain, no doubt, and Barcelona, Real Madrid. And you could see some opposite ones, but
like Messi.
Yeah. Messi, a big one. Yeah, but I guess it's natural.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's something to do with their duties outside of the stuff on the pitch, where they have to go into the corporate boxes, and if some of them
that doesn't happen in the Premier. It happens at Huddersfield. Maybe here.
Don't they do that?
Well, go in and meet like
like after the game, don't they?
Go in and do the meat raffle and things like that.
Number 46.
Anyway, I'm not sure what else is to say about captains. We could probably move on there unless anyone else has anything burning to discuss.
Yeah, I would sum it up and say it doesn't really matter who's got the armband. The leaders are the leaders on the pitch. It might be a little boost to a player's ego if he gets the armband, and he might be fine with that. But generally, I think
so. Do you reckon,
they know who the leader is.
To bash this out, so Roberto Martinez isn't. It doesn't matter whether he gives Hazard the.
I think it matters to Hazard.
So give it to him. So therefore, it matters.
Yeah, it matters to Hazard though.
Therefore, it matters to Belgium.
Yeah, because you want Hazard in the best shape possible. Yeah.
So it does matter who you give the armband to, then.
But I'm saying in terms of the leaders on the field, remain the leaders on. Like Belgium's leader on the field now. I don't think company's really playing with him anymore. Is Axel Witsel when he plays?
Yeah.
He doesn't need the armband to be the leader.
In international football, you do get it a lot more where the
prestige player gets it, doesn't he?
That is definitely more the case than you would see day to day at a club level. Because I think it's probably less important. You're doing fewer responsibilities.
Yeah, you're getting the pennant. That's about it. Yeah.
All right, let's move on then to game week 11. That was a good captain chat. Before we run through mine, Dave, and Sam's changes, Pete will be revealing his 1 week wonder team. He has to pick a team to get as many points as possible from this one game week. Who have you picked?
Right, okay. Do you want me to go through 1 to 11, or we're going to do what, position by position?
Go goalkeeper to attack. Come on,
okay.
subs.
You could start with strikers like Paul Raymond did.
He's never going to live that
down. He just lives his life upside down. Right, I've gone for Ederson in goal. Because let's face it, I mean, it's going to be a massacre, isn't it?
It's Southampton, isn't it?
Yeah.
You got twice in a week then? I guess they did.
Yeah, well, they played them in the cup last night, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, you're into a situation where they could probably get John Burridge out of retirement and stick him in,
You're not going to get many save points, are you? So you're hoping for that clean sheet?
Yeah, get a clean sheet. Of course he's going to get a clean sheet, yeah.
Okay.
And sticking with the theme of Man City are going to batter Southampton, I've gone for Mendy because he's first choice left back by sort of default at the minute, isn't he?
At the minute, you never know.
Didn't play last night either.
Yeah,
which
and he can't play 2 games in a week because his knees are not in great condition. He's not in tip-top physical condition yet. So I see him coming in and playing, and they've got another dimension in their game when he plays. Also, I've gone for Trent Alexander-Arnold, even though he's expensive.
You're big at the back here, aren't you?
Yeah, 5.9 Mendy is, and Alexander-Arnold 7.3.
Even Liverpool got Aston Villa.
Yeah. Even if he doesn't keep a clean sheet, he's always good for getting forward and assists and that kind of thing.
Nearly scored a couple at the weekend, actually.
Rounding out my defence, I've gone for a 3-man back 4. No, actually, I don't know if I'm going to go for a 3-man back 4. I'll tell you my other 3 defenders. I've got for Fredericks from West Ham, because I think they're going pretty decently at the minute. And
against Newcastle.
Yeah, playing at home against Newcastle, it should be an easy 3 points. Again, he's a good overlapper. Chilwell keeps his place.
Are they against Palace?
Yes, they are. They're away at Palace.
Yeah.
And who's going to be a reserve is Jack O'Connell from Sheffield United. They're at home against Burnley. That's got last game on Match of the Day written all over it.
Ahead of Brighton over Norwich?
Well, yeah, because I think Brighton and Norwich can both score goals. Whereas I think Burnley and Sheffield United really struggle to eke them out, don't they? Unless they're playing Arsenal. In midfield, I'll go with the one I'm not selecting. Traore from Wolves was the one. He's making up the numbers in midfield.
So he's your sub?
Yeah, he's going to be my sub.
Do you team then?
I've gone for Yarmolenko. He's kind of come into his own, I think, a little bit.
Got an assist at the weekend.
Yeah, he's scored a few goals as well. Yeah. My boy, Ayoze Perez, keeps his place. Willian, who played really well for Chelsea.
He's in great form.
And he's in great form. And I've finally bit the bullet and gone for Sadio Mane because he is, outside Lionel Messi, probably the best player in the world right now. Up front, my 2 starters will be Sergio Aguero, obviously. And I've gone for Aaron Connolly.
There we go.
Yeah.
So cheap.
So cheap.
4.6, I think he is.
Yeah, but I think he was probably started at 4 and they probably knocked on $500,000.
Started 4.5.
4.5.
Yeah, it's the cheapest they let strikers in at.
Is it? Yeah.
And then when in Houghton, because he bedded him in a little bit, didn't he, with a few subs, and then he smashed it against
Spurs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not Houghton, Potter.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Potter.
But now I think he's going to come into his own. He quite reminds me of Wayne Rooney when he first burst on the scene. I think he's got that same type of stature, and he's quite fearless, you know. The way he won the penalty the other week, I really enjoyed that as well.
Got 8 points at the weekend. Did well.
That counted as an assist then, did it?
He got 2 assists, at the weekend, yeah.
Yeah, good player. And I think he's going to go from strength to strength. And the one who's there as well, and I'll make up my mind on Friday whether I'll start him or not, is Tammy Abraham, who's he didn't score the other week against Burnley. I was at the game, he was very quiet. But
it was all about Pulisic, wasn't it?
But he's a top scoring forward, isn't he, Tammy Abraham, in this entire game?
Only score against championship teams.
The thing, Watford must be in that category.
Yeah, they are, definitely.
So you were at the game, and I only watched the highlights. I didn't see the live game, but for me, it looked like he was being a bit like Benzema in his role. Like he did actually quite a lot, considering he didn't get a lot of points or a lot of the credit.
I don't think he probably didn't have one shot at goal, but he's he's useful for those 1-2s and layoffs, and you know, against a team like Burnley, you need somebody who's going to compete in the air against Tarkowski and me, and he doesn't mind getting up and elbows swinging about. You know, it doesn't really bother him.
I was more impressed with that sort of performance than I would be when he's just smashing in a couple. And
it's an underrated type of performance, because you can't score a hat-trick every week, but you know, it's those kind of games that they show that he's got different dimensions to his game. I thought Chelsea were brilliant.
They were
brilliant.
I'll be interested to see if Pulisic can keep that sort of thing up, because some of those goals struck me as very fortunate.
Yeah, they were. He won't keep it up.
No.
Not a chance.
No.
Well, I think he's a good player, and he'll grow into probably he won't be a world class player. He'll grow into a good player, but that'll be the highlight of his season.
That was your team, wasn't it? That was all your players. You finished your reading off.
That's everybody.
That's everybody. What do we make of that team?
It's all right.
It's all right.
55.
55 points, you reckon?
Dave's jealous. And
I reckon you'll not be bottom of this league, but you'll be in the bottom half.
Who's winning the 1 week league at the minute?
We actually have a new top point scorer this week, because Rob Parrish bagged 70 points last week due to Jamie Vardy getting him 20 points. De Bruyne, who was captain, he doubled up to 12 points. So he's topped Charles Watts, our previous table topper, who was on 64 points. So congratulations, Rob.
We keep going. Oh yeah, Man City are playing so-and-so. This is definitely going to be a big point scorer for Sterling, whoever. And then it's just not happened.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
And Liverpool are conceding, aren't they? It's not like they're not smashing teams this year.
Yeah, there's not many teams who actually keep clean sheets either. So you know, you can pick the defenders from the big teams, but then they don't guarantee you any points.
That's
either.
it. I think Van Dijk got me 1 point or something last week. And he doesn't pop up scoring goals from corners either, Van Dijk. You know,
he nearly scored at the weekend. Gazaniga saved a
he should have scored.
Yeah, it looked like a crossbar, didn't it?
But who's your captain?
I haven't figured out how to change it.
Oh, right. Pick someone now. Who's going to be your captain for that team that you picked?
All right. Who's going to be my top point? It's going to be Aguero, isn't it? I mean, at home against Southampton, that's exactly the type of game that he'll score a hat-trick in.
You're probably right, and that's what makes it so depressing that I've dropped him. But
why have you dropped him?
Because I'm just so fed up of having him. Let me quickly look.
Just keep him in. This is what
I did with Vardy.
This tinkering, this overthinking.
Okay, in his last 4 matches, he's not got more than 4 points in any matches. He's got 4, 2, 0, 1. I brought that's hard to deal with as a 12 million player. I get what you mean. He'll come good at some point.
Yeah.
I can't afford to wait.
That's ridiculous.
So
you're a bit like the Arsenal fans with Pepe.
I'm not booing him though. I'm not tweeting angrily at him. I'm just quietly dropping him. I mean, I am ranting about him now, but quietly dropping him for Vardy. He's come in because Vardy's streaky, as we've discussed in some previous shows
he
before.
is, yeah.
And he's just in...
He's the Premier League top goal scorer, though, at the minute, Vardy.
I just want Vardy back.
Get him, put him back in.
I put him back in my team. Like, I transferred him in. Sam saw me do it. I had him in my team, and then I took him back out, and I was like, I'm just going to stick, last week, I'm just going to stick Vardy in. I wish I'd never got rid of him. And then I just changed my mind. There's composure is a massive part
That's
of
what
this.
happened with me and Ashley Barnes at the start of the season. But luckily, he's gone off the boil since, and he's not really scored at all recently.
He missed a few sitters at the weekend as well.
I did, yeah.
How can you say luckily? I mean, about your guy, Barnes, wanting him to fail. Luckily, he's not doing so well since.
In an alternative universe, he's Barcelona superstar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. But I have a man crush on Dominic Calvert-Lewin now as well. Okay. I love Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That's why he's in my fantasy team. He's got it all as a centre forward. You talk about Benzema. That's your ideal type of Benzema striker. Works his absolute arse off every game. and now beginning to get the rewards scoring goals. And he's one of the most improved players in the league over the last maybe 12, 18 months. I love Calvert-Lewin.
I'm going to quickly run through the changes that I've made in my team.
Go on.
So, I've already mentioned I dropped Aguero, brought in Vardy. The other change that I've made, because I've got a fair bit of cash to play with, like 3 million saving there, I've dropped Moutinho, who I don't even know why I put him in the first place. He's done literally nothing for the past 5 weeks I've had him. He's gone, and in has come Martial, now that he's back, and back scoring. Did quite well in was it his return last week, or did he come off the bench previously?
I think he might have got 6 minutes the week before.
So he's definitely back for Man United. I think they've got a pretty decent fixture this weekend against
Bournemouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bournemouth are a better side at home than they are away, but still, I think you'd fancy him to potentially get on that scoring sheet.
I mean, that Norwich game was a bit of an anomaly for Man U, isn't it? That's the first time they've won away from home since what, February?
March.
Since March. February in the league, I think.
I think we discussed it last week that United away from home are terrible, but Norwich right now are in absolute state. So
that's it,
all the teams
so that's why I think it's a bit of an anomaly. I think Bournemouth are a better team than, well, there's no doubt about it, Bournemouth are a better team than Norwich.
They are.
They're going to finish higher up the table.
Man United's next game after that is Brighton, though, and then after that it is Sheffield United. They've got a good run coming up, basically, United. So, but considering how much Martial is, I think he's a pretty decent
he looked good at the weekend. I know it was only Norwich, but he held the ball up well, which Rashford is unable to do. And the deftness of his finish, words escape me.
I'm just looking at Manchester United's top scoring midfielders. McTominay is 1 point off the top scoring midfielder for Man United.
5 points.
He's got 40 points so far, does McTominay.
That's good.
One less than James, who I thought was quite good actually the weekend.
Yeah.
It's tempted to throw him in, but I've gone for Martial. We'll see how he does. What changes have you made, Dave, in your fantasy team? Any changes?
Just having a little tinker with it now.
All right, okay.
So yeah, if I repeat anything you've just said, that's because I wasn't listening. But yeah, I've got 2 transfers basically, because last week I decided to stick. So there will be changes. I'm looking at bringing Chilwell in, but and taking Walker out, as I just feel like he hasn't got me any points at all, really. I'm not feeling the Man City defenders, if I'm honest with you. I know Pete picked Mendy in his team. I just had a look at him, and then I just kind of went off the idea almost immediately. Again, I just think it's that. There's a little bit of faith lost in Man City from an FPL perspective for me. You
just can't predict the team week in, week out. It's such a difficult job. Like De Bruyne, he's staying in my team simply because I know that he will start most games, because he needs him in that team to pick him apart the defences.
There's probably like 3 Man City players you could pick.
Edison is another one, yeah.
Yes. Well, Edison, maybe 4. Edison, Sterling, David Silva, and De Bruyne. Maybe De Bruyne. They're the ones they always seem to feature, don't they?
No.
De Bruyne.
This is even it. Like Sterling was out.
Only
for a
De Bruyne has been out with injury, hasn't he?
Yeah, De Bruyne is the only enforced one. I think he dropped him actually against Norwich, didn't he? And then they lost.
Yeah.
So he was like, "Oh crap, I'm not going to do that."
But usually those guys. They're the only ones I'd consider picking anyway. But 2 transfers. I think Cantwell's coming out now.
He's had his time.
I've got about 5.9 million to spend when I take him out, because I had a bit left over. So it'd be a case of looking at which kind of players are available for that price who are going to do any better than him. Which is Barnes at Leicester could be a decent pick.
He's doing really well. He's one of the most informed midfielders right now.
Yeah, 5.9. So
5.9 is how much he is? Christ, I think he's going to rocket up in price once people realise what a good value midfield option he is.
I think it's a bit of a play as well at the moment. I'm thinking with these transfers, I could start to get at least one Leicester player back in the team. However, I feel this weekend that game against Palace is going to be a very tough one for them.
Palace have a really good form this season.
Yeah,
underrated, I think.
Yeah,
I think it's overrated.
Their form is overrated.
Yeah, I think they're lucky to be where they are.
I don't think that's true at all.
What are you...
How can you say they're lucky to be where they are? They've done fantastically well to be where they are.
I think they've been lucky to get where
luck,
they are.
Is it? How can it be luck?
Sixth in the table. I think he's just bitter because they're above Man United.
That's got absolutely nothing to do with it. Man United back where they belong in 7th. Where I think they're just lucky. I think they've conceded far less than they should do, and they should have done if you go by XG, of course.
God, ridiculous.
There we go.
They've got points off Wolves, Arsenal, They did get spanked by Tottenham, to be fair. They beat Man United at home, away from home even, at Old Trafford.
Yeah, it was a fluke.
I think you're being very harsh on Paul Palace. I thought, considering we were not roundly tipping them as relegation candidates, but we were damning them in the early shows.
That's a good indicator of how lucky they've been.
Well, I think that's a far cry. I'm not sure if they've been lucky, to be honest. Well,
if they're higher than 12th at the end of the season, I'll buy you a posh coffee.
They'll have done amazingly well to do that, though, because they haven't, same manager, same setup there as last season.
No transfers in.
Literally,
they kept Zaha. That was their summer success.
Did you get Cahill in this summer?
Yeah, free transfer in, yeah. They didn't spend any money there, but, But considering
got 50 million off Man United for a failed right winger. Incredible business.
But yeah, the rest of the team is looking the same for me. Not massive changes, just because I would be looking to get Abraham out, and maybe same with again Firmino. I find quite frustrating because he doesn't score he's not scoring as many as I'd want him to score, but because he's a link player, isn't he?
It's the type of thing that they still haven't really got around to harness properly in fantasy football is players like that. And you mentioned Moutinho earlier on, or Neves, one of the other from Wolves.
Moutinho, yeah.
You can't really quantify what they do in terms of winning points. I think that's always been the difficulty for FPL.
I've got two of those up front at the moment.
What's your team look like, Sam?
I made a change last week, just before the deadline, where I took out Mason Mount and brought in Martial. So benefited from him bagging, they've mentioned, and also I was pumping my fist when we got that penalty because he doesn't miss. It turns out he does.
Yeah.
United missed 4 penalties this season.
To be fair, Tim Krul is a great penalty stopper.
He's a cheat.
He's a cheat.
Barefaced cheat.
He's a hero. I'll hear none of that.
So far off the line, it was as long as he can look his children in the face. And he gets
Did VAR not intervene at that point? Or?
No.
They've sensibly stopped doing that because that was ridiculous.
A lot more.
Echoes of Dudek in the 2005 Champions League final.
Oh my god.
Anyway, Martial is in, and he remains in, and then I have just got rid of a defender. I've got rid of Martin Kelly because he doesn't appear to be playing for Palace, and as I've mentioned, I think they're chronically overrated.
I'm not sure you even started him in any of your matches on purpose, did you?
No. But he was 4 mil. But there's more injuries knocking on these days, so I wanted to try and just beef up my overall squad.
Ooh.
So Martin Kelly out, Mendy in. I don't know whether that's just going to be a short-term, few-week job while Zinchenko is out. We'll see. But overall pretty happy with the team. I could do with a bit of work up front. I've got Abraham and Callum Wilson.
Neither of which are firing too much at the moment.
No, Wilson was still firing when I got him in, and then stopped like a week after. And Abraham, not too dissimilar.
I came very close to dropping Haller this week. Because he's still not doing it. But the thing that stopped me is the fact that they're playing at home.
Pride stopped.
Pride is part of it, a good 50%. But the other 50% is playing Newcastle at home this weekend. And they could definitely ship a few. I was surprised we didn't.
He's kind of their only forward as well, isn't he, Haller?
Yeah. And I still think he's a good option to have in there if he can get a few goals, but he's just not getting the goals at the moment. 7.4 million, he's not exactly
but Connor
cheap.
Wickham's a good option to have in there if he gets a few goals.
Haller will be gone for Connolly, actually, at Brighton if he doesn't score this weekend. He's got to score against Newcastle, or he's done. And then I'll save a fair bit for doing that as well. I can maybe get a Son. I really want Son in my team. He scored a couple at the weekend against Liverpool.
Yeah, look good.
I think he hit the woodwork twice.
He's just like the one Spurs player trying to drag that team up the table, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's such a great player.
He is,
I love him. And I've missed not having him in my team this season. I usually tend to have him in there. So, looking forwards, he's going to be the person who I can try and squeeze in my midfield. But I've got to wait a little bit longer. Spurs this weekend, they have Everton, who have actually been pretty crap this season. So maybe Spurs could try and capitalise on
You just can't trust Spurs.
You
just
can't.
The fixtures for me are Chelsea versus Watford, which you'd imagine Chelsea will come out on top of. Liverpool are playing Aston Villa, so you don't want to be taking any of those players out of the
But
team,
both of those are away as well, which could make it a little bit sticky, is the thing.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. Not like they're top teams. I don't see them being.
For me, City are nailed on, Brighton are nailed on, and
Liverpool.
Yeah, Brighton are nailed on. And I think Sheffield are nailed on for a clean sheet. And West Ham. So that's why I've picked a lot of players from those
Yeah, West Ham probably nailed on, unfortunately.
I don't think West Ham's nailed on. I think that game's an either way, really.
Really? I mean, West Ham's form hasn't been great lately, but at the same time, we are really bad away from home. Spurs aside.
I think Sheffield United will do all right against Burnley. I think that'll be a clean sheet for Sheffield United.
Yeah. You're going to start Lundstram this week? Give him another chance?
Yeah, started him last week.
I'm going to put Lundstram in my team just to curse him in Sam's team.
Be more like me.
Because, when you put Wilson in, it was the week after I put him in, and then he stopped scoring.
Return the spite.
Yeah. I put him in before you.
You did, yeah. That's what I mean. You put him in, then I put him in the week after, and now he stopped scoring.
Well, come up with your own ideas then.
No, I'm just enjoying
his tactic.
Halting your progress.
All you Sheffield United Johnny come latelys. I liked them when they were in the Championship.
You did not. He said, I swear, right, when they got promoted, he said they're just going to be like Huddersfield. They'll struggle and
to
they'll
score
go
goals.
down.
They struggled to score goals. Am I wrong?
They've scored more than I thought they would, to be fair.
Yeah, they have, yeah.
They haven't scored loads, but...
Well, incredibly difficult to break down, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Unlike Huddersfield.
They're so disciplined. I was at the game the other day against Arsenal, and I was really impressed with how they play. But, just as the game was kicking off, and you could see the Arsenal players pulling their sleeves down over their hands, I was thinking, Arsenal are going to get turned over here, man.
All right, let's wrap this up then. Dave, Sam, Pete, thanks very much for joining us today. Listeners, you can get in touch by tweeting your fantasy football thoughts with the hashtag UKFFS. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, follow on Spotify, or however you listen to podcasts on your favourite platform. Leave a review if you liked it, and if you didn't, what are you still doing here? Check out Goal for your daily dose of football news from the Premier League and around the world. Thank you for listening.